Once upon a time, in a quaint little village named Dani, the villagers had a peculiar problem. They couldn't bake the perfect loaf of bread. The flour was abundant, ovens were aplenty, but every attempt resulted in bread that was either too hard, too soft, or oddly misshapen. One day, a curious traveler named Dwani arrived. She carried with her a magical journal called The Learner, which she claimed could teach anyone how to bake the perfect loaf of bread. The villagers gathered around her in curiosity, and Dwani explained, "This journal doesn't bake bread itself. It learns from you. You provide it with examples, and over time, it predicts how to bake the perfect loaf." The villagers were skeptical, but willing to try. Dwani gathered the village bakers and said, "We'll start small. Each of you will bake a loaf of bread, record all the details, how much flour, water, yeast, the temperature of the oven, and how the bread turned out. Then write it in the learner." This is called training the model. The bakers got to work. One baker, Geeta, added too much water and her bread was soggy. Another, Kabir, baked his bread at too high a temperature and it came out burnt. They noted everything in the journal. Geeta's loaf: 3 cups of flour, 2 cups of water, 1 tablespoon of yeast, baked at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Result: too soggy. Kabir's loaf: 3 cups of flour, 1 cup of water, 1 tablespoon of yeast, baked at 500 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. Result: burnt, and so on. As more data was added to the learner, it started noticing patterns. Dwani explained, "This journal uses a method called machine learning. It looks for connections in the data you provide and uses them to make better guesses. The more examples you give, the smarter it becomes." After a week of baking and recording, Dwani asked the journal to predict the perfect recipe. The learner analyzed all the data and suggested 3 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of water, 1 tablespoon of yeast, baked at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 minutes. The villagers followed the recipe, and, to their amazement, the bread turned out golden, fluffy, and delicious. The villagers cheered, but Dwani reminded them, "This is just the beginning. The learner can improve even more. Every time you bake, continue to record your results, even if the bread isn't perfect. The more you experiment, the better it will predict." Over time, the learner became more accurate. It even learned to adjust recipes based on the type of flour or the humidity in the air. The villagers marveled at its ability to adapt. One curious child asked, "Is the learner magic?" Dwani smiled. "Not magic, just math and logic. It works because it learns from patterns in data. This is how many machines learn in the real world. Just like humans improve through practice, machines improve by analyzing examples and adjusting their approach." From that day on, the learner wasn't just a tool for baking bread. The villagers used it to predict crop yields, design better irrigation systems, and even create new recipes. Dani thrived, and the villagers became experts in teaching machines to solve problems. Machine learning isn't about magic. It's about teaching machines to learn from data, just like the villagers taught the learner to bake bread. With creativity, persistence, and data, even beginners can harness its power to solve real-world problems. And so, the village of Dani became a hub of innovation, all thanks to the power of learning, both human and machine.